Okay, so let's start our next tutorial video lesson, and we're going to be talking about our proxy trees that we will be including, and also just the lighting if we have time for it. So I've opened our free birch tree that we have in our library, and I will just make sure that everything is attached. Yep, it all seems good. And then I want to go into the material editor and just grab the material and make sure that we can export it all as one. So let's right click and we want to mesh export. I've already got directory and everything. Okay, let's export that. Yep, let's override it again. Just waiting for it to write up. There we go. I'll delete that because I work in a certain method, which I'll show you. And let's go to our create panel and V-Ray proxy. Let's just hit anywhere in the center. And we'll load up our mesh, which we've created. We'll hit M to bring up our material slate, and we'll give that material we already had. So we've got our proxy here. So I'll just move that to the center. I'll just double click. So we've got added the material to it. I'll just save that out and let's go to our master file. So here we go. And as you can see, I've loaded up already the proxy. I'll just show you how I've done that. And this is a quick turnaround, and this is why I do save my file over, or you can save as a different file. So I just import and I'll merge that in, and there we go. So I've merged that in. It will come in the center, origin. And there we have our proxy tree. Another thing, as you may have noticed, is this this little script that I'm running. And many of you probably know this, this set of scripts from Solburn. And I'm using specifically the object painter, which I've brought up and I've made shortcut for. And I won't go too much into depth with that, but as you can see, I've got a tool which enables me to paint on certain geometry. So what I do is I'll select my geometry that I want to paint on, and I select it and select that. I will add it to list, and so we have that to paint on. And then I'll come down and I'll go to my tree, which I will select to paint with. And of course, I want it as an instance, so it doesn't load up all that geometry into its memory. One thing to bear in mind is I've aligned just to the z-axis. I don't want it to go along the y-axis, and I've switched the prefix to tree. I could display paint with boxes, which means when I paint, I just paint with boxes, but at the same time, I want to be able to see the difference in and how these trees react to one another and their scale. So that's always a good way to go about it. So okay, let's grab our brush and we'll start to paint. And I've also added some random rotations to it and scale, and I'll just continue to paint. And I'm just looking to get into some random, but something that makes a bit of sense. So these are quite large trees. I might go for larger on the outside and then gradually bring it into the inside as a smaller tree. So let's see how that's looking. That's looking not too bad. So I'll just continue painting those on. I'll just pause and we'll come back to that. Okay, so I've painted all these out, and I'll just show you basically. So I've got some density in the middle, something's happening there, garden or something around that. And I've just lowered the trees a little bit because I thought they were a bit too high. And now I will, as you can see, the scene is going around quite slow. So what I tend to do now that I've chosen is just select a proxy and go into the bounding box. I'll get rid of that one. I think that's the one we've actually cloned across. Actually get rid of it just out of sight. We don't really need to have that. So okay, so going to camera, I'll close that because Actually, I'll maintain that open because I need to verify if I've painted everything more or less to my liking. So for that, I'll just do a basic render. But before that, let's talk about lights. And lighting is also a very important aspect of any 3D and any 3D package for that matter. And what I've done is use a V-Ray dome light. I think previously we talked about a sun, but I'm not actually using a V-Ray sun. I'm just using a dome light. And what I've done is just go into the create directory, just lighting and V-Ray light and a dome. So what comes up after that are these options. And what I've done is I've just selected a map. And that map you can see here. And it's a spherical map I got from CG Textures. It's free. I've just made sure that I've put that as environment. And I've actually instanced it across. And I just put, and it should pop up to use instance, and yes. And then I just go into environment. It's on texture. I select environment and spherical environment, and it will wrap itself within the V-Ray light. And as you can see, I've put it as visible, and I've just put it to effect diffuse, specular, and effect reflections. I also have these other lights which I've created through a mesh, and a mesh light is very easy to create, and I'll just show you here just very simply how to create a mesh. So I'll create a plane, and I'll go into that plane, and I will actually convert that, right click and convert. I hope you can see that on screen. Let me just bring it up. Convert to edible mesh. And here we have an edible mesh. So we go to our V-Ray lighting, V-Ray light, and let's select a mesh. So I'll just click. There we go. I'll go into options, and I shall have the option to click a mesh. It's very important you remember it will also follow the normals, although you do have an option further down within this to invert normals. But it's important you get it right the first time. So you can see here you can flip normals. So if you, for instance, have the Z facing here, which is a positive, and you want it the other way, you just flip normals. So that's basically what I've done to show illumination on the outside. So let's just have a quick render of that, and I'll get back to you, and then we can talk about our next one. Okay, so I've left this rendering, and it's taking quite a bit. I had to change around the material on the trees, as we had a two-sided material which really slowed to render. And yeah, I quite like the density of it, and I can see just briefly here from the preview, and I'm quite liking it. And I know that I'll be mixing it in with some other trees that I'll be painting in, and it's more to create an illusion and to blend in. I quite like this centerpiece. Think that's working. Maybe I'll put a light around here. I'll also move up the Z plane direction, the plane in the Z direction, sorry, because I think, yeah, as you can see, it's separated, and I put it quite quickly just to check out things. And yes, I think we are ready to move on to our next tutorial and our next lesson, in which we will talk about our proxy trees, which we've done now, but also the V-Ray camera, and preparing the V-Ray camera and aligning it with the concept image, and also talking about the perspective and eyeballing perspectives. So I'll see you in the next lesson, and hopefully you've enjoyed this one.